Hey guys, what's going on? Got another Coin Shop Finds video for you here. This is a special one because I actually, I went out on a limb and I actually purchased a coin that I've been thinking about purchasing for quite a while now. And you can obviously see why I haven't. It's a very expensive coin to buy, especially a raw coin. Anybody who's Most seasoned collectors will tell you if you're going to buy an expensive coin, buy it graded. There's just so many risks involved buying raw coins. Authenticity, then was it cleaned, and other factors. There's so many details, monikers that you can get. It's just, it's a risky thing to do, to spend a lot of money on a raw coin. But, I'm confident that this coin will come back straight, problem-free coin if I send it out. It's got, the reverse is excellent, really nice luster on the reverse. A little bit of chatter in the fields, but nothing too crazy. It's nothing that would get it a details grade as far as I'm concerned. And the obverse, a little less luster than the reverse, which is pretty common. But, very few hits on the obverse. There is luster. This is a toned coin. It's got somewhat of a dark tone to it. But I've always liked toned coins. So, for me, that's not off-putting. I think it's a pleasing coin to look at. There is a ding on the rim on the right side of the obverse there. I'm betting that it's not big enough to get it a details grade. We're going to find out. And it's a big chance to take. I didn't pay the full sticker price here, but, I did pay up for it nonetheless. But this is just, every time I go there, to this particular coin shop, I glance over this coin, and I've never had them come open up the showcase and take it out and look at it, because I don't want to waste their time if I'm not serious about buying something. And usually, I want to look at quite a few other things too, so I don't want to waste their time or my time by just looking at an expensive, beautiful coin that I don't plan on buying. But, I went there yesterday, intent on buying it if I got it in hand, looked at it, and everything looked good. I was intending on buying it, and I made a deal on it with him yesterday. Like I said, I didn't pay $890, but I paid quite a bit for it, and he held it for me, and I went back today with the cash, picked it up, and here it is. So, in mint state, there's 400 or less of these estimated to exist. In all grades, I think they're estimating about 3,000 exist. And this is the highest mintage Carson City quarter in the seeded series. There are over 4 million minted. But, if this was a 75 or any of the other years, this would be way more expensive than that. So, although this is the most common Carson City seeded quarter, they're by no means, common in uncirculated grades. And the population reports will reflect that, even though there are, like I said, there's approximately 400 uncirculated examples are estimated to exist. And some pretty high grades too, some MS67s, I believe. But for me, to get a chance to buy this and to have this in my collection, as somebody who loves this design as much as I do, and to have it be a Carson City mint, a beautifully toned seeded Liberty, I couldn't pass on it. Once I get it in my head that I'm going to buy something, I usually end up buying it eventually, unless somebody else buys it. But, you know, this is a big purchase for me. I do plan on sending this off to get graded, so you will see the results of that within the next probably 3 months. You know, it takes usually at least 2 months to come back. But here's a coin that I bought last weekend. This is a 1909 barber quarter. I really like this. It's got some nice original skin to it. A lot of detail. The reverse is really nice. There is quite a bit of luster remaining on this for a circulated coin. And I just like the look, the color, the amount of detail, and the quality of the surfaces. I just really like this coin. So I picked this up. Very happy to add that to my collection. And likewise, last weekend I picked up this. This is the first coin that caught my eye. As soon as I looked at the showcase, this popped right out at me. Like, this is right up my alley when I'm looking for coins at the coin shop typically. You know, it's not crazy expensive, but it's original. You know, it's got lots of detail. It's got the look that you want in an original coin. It's got the tone, the wear patterns. You know, everything's there. It's just a beautiful barber quarter. You know, anybody who collects barber coinage, you know, this is kind of the look you're going for with the mid-lower graded circulated stuff. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. So, of course, I was very happy to grab that. I did grab this out of the bargain bin just because, you know, I think melt on quarters at the time, I haven't checked what spot is today, but I think it was like $79 an ounce at the time. So melt was, I don't even know what that is, but I know it's like $15, $16 or something like that. I think between 15 and 16 maybe. So this is just one that's probably been in there for a while and kind of flew under the radar. So I grabbed that just strictly because it was a good buy. It is a barber quarter. Obviously that helps too, but it was a good buy at $10. Picked up this 1888 seeded dime just because I liked the look of it, and I feel like a lot of coins like this are going to be getting melted if silver spot price continues to rise. You know, I kind of worry about the effects that it's going to have on coin collecting. You know, if you see silver go to 100 and maybe 150, which, you know, is not outside of the, you know, realm of possibility. Especially lately, it's just been shooting up like a rocket. You know, I worry if silver gets to be that high that a lot of stuff like this will get melted. So, you know, for 20 bucks, like I said, I love the design. I like the tone on this, even though it's got that big gash on the arm there. This will go in an album eventually, I'm sure. Next, I got this 1883 seeded dime for 10 bucks, and it's actually a love token. Now, part of me questions if this is actually an era, you know, love token, an 1800s era love token created back then. But just because it's so intricate, usually when I see them, they're a lot more plain than this. But maybe that's not abnormal. You know, I only have a handful of these things. But for 10 bucks, you know, I like love tokens. The obverse has a lot of detail to it. It's almost got like a little bit of a blue tone to it. But like I said, for 10 bucks, it was worth it. So I grabbed it out of the bargain bin. And then the last two things I got here, both out of the bargain bin. Here's an 1845 large cent. And I just grabbed this because it's just got so much nice detail. And although it is dark, it's not so dark that you can't make out the design features, which is how a lot of them are for when you get them cheap. So I paid $25 for this, just because I don't have that many of them, and I just thought it was all there for me to pay that. You know, there's no damage to it. You know, you can make out the design really good, even though it is darkly toned. And I just thought it was a nice large scent for $25, so I grabbed that. And then lastly, this was an interesting one for me, because the camera doesn't do this justice, but that is actually, to the eye, pretty red. You know, you could see that 2/3 of the obverse here. It's got like a wood grain pattern, but it's fairly red, and it just has a really cool look to it. And obviously the other third there fades to darkness, but I liked how bright and red that did appear, and it's got like a wood grain texture or look to it that was really cool. And then the reverse, not quite as bright as the or actually, this is the obverse and this is the reverse, I do believe. I got that wrong. So the actual obverse here, not quite as bright as the reverse, but it does have some reds towards the bottom of the obverse there around the date, and towards the left of the obverse on the top of the rim there. So it's a Civil War date. Here we go to the reverse. Reverse has a fairly bright red to it, you know, compared to a lot of other inexpensive pieces that you'll find. And the wood grain appearance, I just thought it was a cool look, you know. I do like all different kinds of US coinage, so whenever I can find a cool example like this for cheap, I'll grab it. So I paid $15 for this. You know, I don't know the market on these or what they even go for in their different grades, but sometimes I just see a coin and it's got a certain look that I like, and I just grab it. So that's what happened with these last two copper pieces. And that's it. So, you know, I'd say my favorite, obviously, would be this 1877 Carson City quarter. Really an amazing piece. I'm very happy to own that. And then these two Barber quarters, I was very happy to pick up as well. I like the price on each of them. I like how they look in their own different ways. The originality on this one, especially. And I mean, for $43, like, I'll pick that up every day of the week. But that's everything. You know, let me know what you guys think about my coin shop finds. Especially, what do you think about this Carson City quarter? You know, is that something you would take a gamble buying raw? You know, an expensive piece like this? And what do you feel about its grade? If you had to grade this, what do you think it's going to be? I'm not assuming it's an MS62, by the way. I never addressed that. You know, if it came back a 61, I think I would be happy. You know, but I don't necessarily think it'd come back a 62. I don't think the luster on the obverse is strong enough. But what do you guys think? Be interested to find out. And stay tuned for some more Coin Shop Finds videos. Later.